Hey everyone, it's Kelly. Thanks so much for joining me today. I am back with a new process video and layout for Altenew, and this is for their newest Build a Flower stamp release. And I'm probably going to butcher the name of this flower, but I believe it is called the Camellia Japonica, but I could be completely wrong and saying that completely incorrectly, so I apologize if that is not correct. But the stamp set comes with 4 layers for the flowers, and then there's also 2 different leaves, and there are 3 layers for each leaf. So I have stamped this stamp set numerous times using multiple colors. I have orange and purple and yellow and pink and a coral color. And I also cut a cut file from the cut shop, and I am going to be using that on a piece of pattern paper from the Altenew Our Family scrapbook collection. And I'm just getting some foam dots placed on the outside of that cut file to start. I knew I wanted the cut file to have some dimension, but because the lines are so thin in the center of the cut file, I didn't want to have to cut down tiny pieces of foam to place there. So I'm going to kind of work around that in just a moment. And here are the 2 photos that I'm going to be using today. Those are photos of me planting flowers, which I'll talk about those photos a little bit later on in the video. I've arranged my flower clusters and I really like the position of the flowers, so I'm going to go ahead and use my glue and my fine liner bottle just to adhere those clusters together. That way I can just move them as one unit. And I am going to place one of the clusters, this larger cluster that's going to be above my photos. I'm actually going to place that underneath the cut file. I really like the dimension that that gives the layout. It just really adds a lot of interest to the background. And now I'm going to add some foam behind this flower cluster, and this will help elevate the center of the cut file because the flowers will be elevated to the same level as the outside edges of the cut file. So I'm just going to get all that positioned down and get that adhered down on that cluster. And I use really cheap paper to stamp these flowers. That's why you can see all the bleed through on the back of those stamped images. It's just some 8.5 by 11 paper. I'm not even sure where I picked it up. It's not quite as thin as copy paper or the paper that you would run through your printer, but it's pretty thin, and I use it mainly for practice. But I really liked how these flowers turned out when I stamped them, so I decided just to go ahead and use them. So I'm also going to add some foam behind the smaller cluster as well, but I'm actually going to place the foam underneath the cut file rather than directly on the back of the flowers. Again, that's just to help support the center of the cut file, to help raise it up a little bit so it doesn't sag in the center. And it takes me just a little bit to get that position because I don't want you to be able to see that fun foam around the edges of the flowers. So I'm just working on getting that arranged. And then I'll do the same thing with the photos. I'm going to bring the photos in, and then I'll add that foam underneath the cut file to help elevate the photos and help elevate the cut file. Okay, so I have that 3D foam taped down to the background, and I've moved all of the backing from the 3D foam square. So I'm just working on getting the cut file adhered down to that pattern paper. And I'm going to start to bring in my photos and then that other flower cluster. And this layout is all about flowers, so I thought it would be perfect to use the stamp set with these photos because these photos were taken when I was trying to plant a flower garden in my yard. And the story for the photos is about my complete lack of a green thumb. My mom can grow the most gorgeous flowers in the most gorgeous flower beds, and I can't keep flowers alive to save my life. They die every time I plant them. So I thought that I was going to create a traveler's notebook, just a small mini album about my venture in this flower garden that I planted last year. And I didn't end up doing the mini album, but I had these photos. So I thought they would be great to use on this layout with this flower stamp set. And I document and talk about how my mom can grow beautiful flowers and I can't. I'm not sure what it is. I either overwater them or I don't water them enough, but it just never works out. So now I'm moving on to embellishing, and I wasn't really sure what I wanted to do for the embellishing because the flowers just add so much color and so much interest to the background that I didn't really feel like I needed a whole lot, but I felt like it needed something. So I grabbed these watercolor butterfly stickers. These are also from Altenew, and just added a few around the layout to create a visual triangle. And now I'm starting to bring in some of those stamped leaves, and I'm tucking them into the cut file. So some are peeking out above the cut file, some are completely underneath the cut file. And again, that just adds a lot of dimension and a lot of visual interest to the layout. And I should have mentioned this earlier in the video, but I do apologize for my voice. I've had a scratchy throat for a couple days, and I think that you're really going to be able to tell in this voiceover. So hopefully that's not too distracting, but I needed to get this voiceover recorded, so it's just going to have to be what it is. So now I'm going to go ahead and start to bring in my title, and these are black alphas from the Altenew Live Your Dreams scrapbook collection. And I wasn't really sure what I wanted to use for my title, but I knew that I wanted the title to be somewhat long because I wanted to fill in some of that space on the bottom right hand side of the layout. So I decided to go with plant and grow, and again, it's tucked into the cut file just to add some more interest. And I also typed out my journaling and then cut it into strips, and I used my We Are Memory Keepers typecast typewriter for that. And I'm just going to go ahead and get those strips adhered down to the background. After I had that adhered down, I noticed that I had a little bit of a gap between that butterfly on the bottom left and the word grow. And I was trying to figure out what to put in that area. I thought about stamping the date there, but I decided to use some enamel dots, and I'm just going to add a few of those around the layout, just again to create a visual triangle and to fill in any empty little spots that I have here or there. So I'm going to go ahead and get the date added on in just a moment, and I do use an Altenew roller date stamp to get the date added on there, and it's kind of out of frame, so sorry that you can't see that, but you'll be able to see it in the close-ups. And I was trying to decide if I wanted to add splatters. Adding splatters at the very end of a layout can be a little bit scary because sometimes they just go wherever they want to go, and these ended up turning out okay. I'm happy with how those ended up on the layout. And now I'm just going to bring the layout a little bit closer to the camera so you can see it in a little bit more detail. And I just love the dimension on those stamped flowers. It's amazing to me that they can look so 3D, but yet it's a completely flat image. So do check out this new stamp set. It is absolutely gorgeous. And I do want to encourage you to head to my blog. I will have a link in the description box below. Altenew is offering some different prizes on the blog hop, so you'll want to head there to check out all the details. And I want to thank you all so much for watching, and I'll be back again soon with a new layout and new process video.